Okay, so this question is how can I check to see if my site has a penalty? Okay, so that's a pretty tough question because there are just so many different variables that are just outside of your control. So I can't give you a definitive answer on whether or not your site has a penalty, or potentially maybe it's falling under an algorithmic filter, because there's a difference between your site falling under an algorithmic filter versus actually having a penalty. All right, so a couple things. First and foremost, you should have Google Webmaster Tools connected to your website. That's pretty much mandatory. Make sure you do that because that's the only way that you can communicate with Google and Google can communicate back with you. So the first thing you want to do is when you think you potentially have a penalty, and some of the signals could be, maybe a decrease in phone calls, a decrease in traffic. Your caseload is a little light this month, right? So you can look at that kind of stuff. But you want to log into Google Webmaster Tools. And just recently, about 6 months ago, Google added this feature where they now tell you whether or not your site has a penalty, whether it's a manual penalty, is what they show. So when you log into your Google Webmaster Tools account, first thing you want to do is you want to click on Search Traffic, and then there's a little box here that says Manual Action. You click on it, and it'll tell you whether or not there was any action taken on the site. Looks like it's waiting here for a second. And there's other cool things too that you can learn here in Webmaster Tools. It'll also show things like some of the links that you have coming back to it. If you have any broken, 404 pages or any errors on the site. So in this case here, this is good news. It's saying that there is no manual web spam action found, right? So you would know whether or not you have some kind of a manual action. And in most cases, it's not the whole site. In most cases, it might just be a particular page that they have an issue with. Maybe some of the links that are pointing back to your website that they might have an issue with, where you might have to file what is called a disavow. So there's things that you could do to take preventive measures to get it fixed. But that's one of the first things that we want to do. All right, so let's assume that maybe you now know that it's not a manual penalty, but maybe it still might be an algorithmic penalty. So what are some other things that you can kind of look at? So using just yourlawyer.com again here, you can look at PageRank, right? So this is a toolbar. This is called the SEO Book Toolbar. It's another tool that we use. If you want to install it, it's got some good data there. This tells you the PageRank of your page. For those that don't know, PageRank is part of Google's algorithm. It was one of the most important parts of their algorithm back when they were doing their thesis. The two founders of Google, they were doing the thesis in Stanford, and they came out with this PageRank where they assigned a score from 0 to 10 on every single page on the World Wide Web. And it goes exponentially higher in value as you move from like a 5 to a 6. I think they say it's like an 8 multiplier. So a PageRank 5 would be 8 times 8 times 8 times 8 times 8, right? So it shows you the value of a site. So first thing is, has your page rank remained the same? Or did it go drastically down? Did the page rank maybe, you used to have a page rank 5 and now it's page rank 1 or page rank 0 or page rank NA, right? And if it's page rank 0 or page rank NA, there's a pretty good chance that you might have gotten a penalty, okay? So that's one thing that you can look at. The second thing that you can look at here is do a search for your name, your law firm name. If you don't see yourself on the first page of Google for your own name, there's probably a good chance that you have a penalty, and it could be algorithmic, or in that case, it'd probably be a manual penalty where the whole site might be penalized. So just another thing to do is just do a search for your name. Next thing that you want to do is just do that site colon and then yoururl.com without the www. So in this case is here, yourlawyer.com has 62,900 pages indexed. right? So they know that. They know that they've got a very large website. If they came back one day and they did the site yourlawyer.com and there was only showing 1,200 pages indexed on Google, well, that could mean a couple things. It could mean that there's something that's preventing the Google spiders from crawling and indexing your site correctly, or it could mean that there's some kind of a penalty where they've decided to de-index, a large portion of your site. And it could be things like outside of your control. Maybe somebody took some of your content and cloned your website and did things manipulative to it, and you never know, right? So you always want to kind of just be on the lookout for this kind of stuff. Another thing that you can do is you can go back to our tool that we showed earlier in one of the videos is SEMRush. Put your URL in there and just see, this shows estimated traffic, right? Search engine traffic. So it looks like it's been going up, right? And it's going up, right? So if you notice that it went down, well, that doesn't always mean that it's a penalty, but it's just something to look at, because Google also comes out with like updates. And when they come out with updates, it kind of shakes up the index a lot, and you'll notice like you're on an upward spike and then all of a sudden, bam, you go down. Well, that was probably when Google decided to kick in a new update. Same thing here. And then sometimes you get affected positively with an update. Maybe that happened right here in September, where bam, all of a sudden they were doing things right and they got rewarded for it, right? So that's just another variable that you can look at is this SEMrush. You also want to be looking at your analytics too. Obviously, I don't have analytics to that site, but you can look at your analytics. You can see your traffic, if your traffic's gone up or if it's remained consistent, and then all of a sudden, bam, you just see like a large decrease with traffic. That's probably a sign that maybe you've fallen into a Google algorithmic filter or a penalty. And one of the last things that I'll just mention here, there's probably, 15 other different things that you can look at, but these are just like some of the bigger things. One of the last things is just go to opensiteexplorer.org. It's a free tool. It'll only show so much data. If you want more data, you have to pay for the tool. But you just put your URL in there, and again, it's going to show your total links. It's going to show, page authority. This is like their own kind of page rank that Moz uses. But what you want to do is you want to click on anchor text, and you want to look at your backlink profile. And if your backlink profile has like exact match anchor text keywords that are a large percentage of your links at the top here. So if this said like New York personal injury lawyer, 46, that might be a sign that you might have a penalty that has something to do with your link profile, where it's against Google guidelines. Google gives those out a lot, and then you've got to go in and you've got to clean that up by either disavowing the links or reaching out to the site owners that are linking to you and ask them to remove them. Or the third thing that you could do is you could disavow. You could actually disavow the links. So that's that. And then there's other things too that you can look at here as well. But for the most part, those are the big things that you want to look at, just to kind of determine whether or not you think you might have a Google penalty. Thank you so much.